video for you today. I don't know if you're like me, but it's sometimes hard for me to come up with a masculine card idea. So today I've got a great one for you using our new Textured Notes stamp set. And it's a beauty, that is for sure. So many great things you can do with this set. I can't wait to share with you. But before we get started, it is almost new catalog time at Stampin' Up! May 6, 2025 launches the brand new annual catalog. Oh, there are so many great things inside. So I'm getting ready to send these fun catalog packages out to my customers. They include the new catalog, some samples, who doesn't love some samples, some card examples, and of course a couple of other goodies that you don't want to miss out on. So if you've ordered from me in the last year, be watching your mailboxes for some happy mail fun from me. And if you need a demonstrator and want a catalog from me, you can go to my blog at stampinqueenbee.com. And on the home page, there is a catalog request form that you can fill out, and I will send one of these Happy Mail packages to you. Now, if you have another demonstrator, make sure you ask her, and she would probably be happy to send that to you as well. All right, well, let's get started with today's fun project. Let me flip this around so you can see what we're going to be making today. Here is my website, my blog, where you can find all of the tutorials from past projects. And for this project, you'll have the measurements, the supply list, and of course the step-by-step instructions to create everything we're going to do today. And also that catalog request form will be on there as well. Okay, so we're going to be using the Textured Notes stamp set. It's a newer one in my online store. I love these images with all that texture it can create just by stamping. You can do so much with this. We've got some great sentiments as well. And one of my favorite parts to this bundle and suite that is available are these dies. I love a basic die set that you can use on anything, and shapes are so great for that. So these are some textured rectangles. There's some great rectangles, smaller ones that you can use for sentiments, that we'll be using one of those today. But my favorite of all of them, well, they nest, so that is great for making your different layers, right? But I love this giant one because it is the perfect layer size for a full card layer that you can put on your base. So you can see when you cut this out, you don't have to measure for your layers, right? You can just use the dies like this. If you wanted to do a couple, these all nest together, so it cuts out all the guesswork, all the measuring, and having to know what's what, right? So I love these as an option that I think everyone needs in their craft room, some basic dies, right? Okay, so let me bring in my paper trimmer here and a piece of early espresso cardstock. Here is today's card that we are going to be making. Don't you just love all this texture? I love that it is neutral and masculine, but it's still beautiful, right? Or handsome. All right, so I know we have a lot of new stampers on watching, and so I thought today I would do just a little maybe review if you are not new to card making, and kind of a guide if you are new. So our paper trimmer is so awesome. It's got two blades, a dark one that cuts deeper, so it cuts, and then a lighter colored one, which is our score blade. And so the score blade is just going to give your fold line, and then your cutting blade is going to cut right through your paper. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to score our full sheet of cardstock in half. We're going to flip it, and then we're going to cut it in half. So this is how you can make two card bases out of one sheet of paper. So we're just going to measure this at 4 1/4. I know when I was starting out, measuring and cutting was one of the first things that I needed to learn, I guess. and needed to get good at, right? So you can see we just scored it. And so it gives us this line. Now it's not cut through or anything, but it's gonna give us this line, the fold line, where we know to fold our card. Then we're gonna measure at 5.5. We're gonna use our darker blade because I like to remember that as dark is deeper. So it's gonna cut through and it's gonna cut this in half. And so what we've now created is 2 card bases out of a full sheet of paper, 8.5 by 11 cardstock. So no waste with doing it in this method. And so then when we fold this in half, we can create a card that opens this way horizontally, or we can flip it and it can open vertically. So we've got now 2 what we call card base pieces that we can use as we create our cards. So that might be a refresher for a lot of you, but I know that we have some new stampers on here, and I just wanted to give a little bit of review. So we're just going to use our bone folder now. We're going to burnish this edge. So all that means is we're going to press and give this a really good crease. Helps our cards to lay flat, right? Lay flatter so that they just look more professional. So now we have that. It'll open up and it'll be our card base. So I'm just going to set this aside, and we are going to bring in a piece of scrap paper because we're going to do some stamping. So we're going to grab some early espresso ink and some crumb cake ink. So we've got early espresso and crumb cake. So we'll start off with our crumb cake here. And we're going to bring in this stamp, which is this cute, I call it like a basket stamp, right? Circle. So we're going to ink this up in crumb cake. And we are going to stamp that right down on our scrap basic white paper. And so you could fussy cut this out. There aren't any dies. So fussy cutting is just taking your paper snips, and we could cut this out. I don't know about you, but I'm not really good at cutting circles super straight. And so this is my little tip for you. This is a 2-inch circle punch. And so if we stamp our image here, and we take our 2-inch circle punch and line this up, kind of get that in the center there, punch that through, and now we have a perfect circle that we did not have to fussy cut. So that is our 2-inch Stampin' Up! Circle punch. And my tip for you on that is to make sure you stamp first and then punch it out. If you punch out a bunch of circles and then try to stamp this, well, at least when I tried, it was always off center. So stamping it on your scrap paper and then punching it out is the easiest way that I have found to stamp that and cut it out right. Now I'm going to take some early espresso ink, and for this we're going to actually stamp one of our leaf images here. So I'm just inking that up, and we're just going to go ahead and stamp that down on our scrap paper. Now for this one I will use my paper snips and fussy cut that out. So I've already kind of magic of TV, you don't need to watch me cut that out, right? But I cut that leaf out as well, and so we will use this on our card. So let me put that in our piece pile. I'm going to bring in just a scrap piece of grid paper here. Is the sentiment rectangle that I cut out using those dies. So can't you see the intricate detail on that border? It's just beautiful, and I love that. So for this one, we're going to stamp the thank you. And we're going to do this in early espresso. Wanted to make sure my ink was right there. And we're just going to center that and stamp that right on our sentiment there. Let me zoom in here a bit for you. There we go. That way you can see what I'm doing. All right, now I'm going to take my leaf stamp, same in our early espresso, and I'm actually going to stamp off. So I'm going to stamp onto a scrap paper, and I'm not going to re-ink, and I'm going to stamp it again so it's lighter right onto my sentiment strip there. I'm going to do that twice. So I'm going to ink it up, I'm going to stamp it off, I'm going to turn this. I'm going to stamp it again so it's kind of that lighter image. And you can see we've got kind of the lighter early espresso and the full strength early espresso. And so all of our ink pads really can be, you know, more than one color, right? Because you've got the first generation, the second generation. You could stamp off a few more times and have a few different variations of that color. Okay, now staying with our sentiment here, I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Right marker. This is Crumb Cake. And I'm going to use the brush tip end of this. I'm going to use the lid here, and I'm actually going to speckle my sentiment here. So all I'm doing is kind of flicking it from the lid all over my sentiment there. And I think it just gives that extra little speckling, which is so pretty. Kind of takes up some of that white space, right? But it's just makes for a beautiful design there. Okay, now I'm going to bring in my inside piece. We're just going to get all of our stamping done here. And we're going to use that same leaf image that we've been using with Early Espresso. And this time we're just going to stamp this right in that corner of our inside piece. Now remember, you don't need to know any of these measurements yet. I will have all of these on that PDF for you on my blog, stampinqueenbee.com, so that you can find any of the measurements you need, the supply list, any of that. Okay, so then I'm going to put this piece aside, and I'm going to bring in a piece that I die cut. So this is die cut using those Textured Notes dies. Isn't that beautiful? That design. This is some designer series paper, also from this suite, and it's called Woven Textures. And look at these beautiful, beautiful textured pieces of paper that are in this DSP set. They are wowy, right? I love them. I have been creating so many things with this paper. So I took those dies, that biggest die, and I cut out with the designer paper. This is kind of a linen print, and so I thought it was just beautiful. I'm going to bring in my Crumb Cake ink pad, and we are going to use this stamp in that set, which is A Little Note of Appreciation. And so I'm just going to ink this up, and we're just going to stamp it in the middle and to the right. We're just going to alternate left and right here, stamping that sentiment all the way down on our DSP, our designer series paper here. We're just kind of creating our own DSP, and look, it just gives it a little and then some, puts in that sentiment so we get a little more of our greetings there. And I think that is all of our stamping done. So now we can start putting together all the parts and pieces of our card. So the first thing I'm going to do is the inside of our card. So we've got our card layer here, and we're going to add a little bit more to that. So I've already cut this piece for the inside here. We're going to adhere this over that stamped image. So it kind of looks, I don't know, like it's grown out of the ground, right? Just gives it a little more. And then it's a great way to use up these little scraps, because sometimes these are left over and we don't know what to do with them, right? So all I'm doing is adding a little bit of liquid adhesive here. We're going to put this right along the bottom of our inside layer. Just line that up and just holding it, make sure that it is adhered. And then we are going to add some more liquid adhesive right to the back here. And we're just going to put this right in the inside of our card base. So we've got that all inside. Isn't that beautiful? Make sure that's straight. All right, and we'll close up our card and let's work on the outside here. So we've got this piece that we just stamped on. So I'm just gonna add my liquid adhesive right to the back here. We're gonna put this on the front of our card base, and we're just gonna make sure that we center that left and right, top and bottom. See how that die just makes a perfect layer? No need to cut cardstock. We can just die cut and be done, right? Okay, so for the next part of our card front here, I've cut with the die another piece, so you can see it's exactly the same size because I used that die. The design is on there. Let me get close there. You can see that design. It kind of blends into this piece, but that's okay. I did this because I wanted it to be the exact size of our other piece. And so what we're going to do with this piece is we're going to kind of go to the middle here and then tearing the paper towards me or towards you and kind of going back and forth left and right. We are just going to tear this all the way in half. So we've got now two pieces. So when I tear towards me, you can see this is white core paper, and so you can see that little bit of white kind of through the middle. That's what I want. And so what we'll end up doing is putting this right over the left side here. So we kind of have just a little bit of torn detail. Now this piece here, you could use it on another card, right? Because we did it in half, you could easily flip that around and make a second card out of that piece. You could even use the other side that shows the white and maybe do a different version with that, right? So save this for your next project. Now before I adhere this down, I'm going to actually grab my paper snips here, and we're going to give this a little more distressing. So we're going to actually go right along that white edge, and we're going to kind of scrape it. Just going to scrape it right along so that we can get a little more detailing, a little more rough edging of our piece here. So we're just going to go ahead and go all along that piece. And so it just, you can kind of see it just roughed it up a little bit more, and kind of you could bend those edges a little bit, kind of bend them in. And then we're going to take our liquid glue, put it right on the back here. And I'm not going all the way up to this edge that we roughed up, and you'll see why here in a second. So we're just going to line this up. Remember, we used our die, so it's going to be exact. And we're just going to go ahead and put that right down, give it a little back rub there so it gets secure. And then I'm going to take my bone folder, and I'm going to use this pointed end of my bone folder here. And I'm just going to hold this down with my hand, and then using the edge here, you can see I'm using my fingers to kind of hold it so it doesn't pull too much of it up. But using this pointed end, I'm just going to kind of pull up on any of those little edges right along here, because I want my recipient here to see that there is some kind of raised edges, right? So I'm just going to flip this so you can see how it gives it that little edge, and it just kind of makes it look a little rough and rugged, right? Now we're going to put our focal pieces together here. So I'm just going to take my circle here. I'm going to add a little bit of liquid adhesive there, and I'm going to add a little bit of liquid adhesive to the stem of my little branch here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take all three of these, and we're just going to adhere them together. Just kind of hold that down so that they all stick. So you can see we've made this beautiful focal kind of layer, right? And when you use kind of in an odd number, we've got three things here. It's going to give you a real aesthetic look to your card. I'm going to flip that over. I'm going to bring in some Stampin' Dimensionals. These are just some foam little guys that are going to adhere and give some lift on our card. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put these down. I like to use lots of dimensionals because I don't like any part of my card to sag or droop. You know, any of these pieces, I don't want them, I want them to pop up, right? And the other thing I did is you can see I put these couple dimensionals here overlapping the both pieces, and that just helps secure even more my 3 pieces together. So I am just peeling the backings off here of my dimensionals. And we know they're off when they are shiny, right? So we'll just got a couple more here, and we will center this right on our card front. So they are all sticky now, and we will just put this right over top in the center there. Isn't that beautiful? Now, just because it's a masculine card doesn't mean it doesn't need bling. You know me, I love bling. And so one of my new favorites in the bling is our neutral matte dots. So these come in, if you get the textured note suite, there is a white, black, a basic beige, and a pecan pie. So these are great because they're not super glittery, they're matte, right? So they are a great option when you're making masculine cards. So we're actually gonna use the white today, and I'm just gonna stick 3 of these on my card. And I'm using my Take Your Pick tool. It just is a pointy tool that helps you to get them off of the carrier sheet here, right? It just, I don't know about you, but I can't always grab those with my fingers, and so using Take Your Pick tool really helps with that. Okay, and then our card is done. Our beautiful, handsome, masculine card, all that texture, our rugged edges. I think it's just a really wowy card. So I hope you love it too. Here's a couple others that I made using this same design. And let me flip the camera back so that I can say goodbye to you all. Thank you so much for joining me today, and all of my videos, for liking them, subscribing, sharing with your friends. I absolutely appreciate each and every one of you. I love your comments. I reply to every single one of them. So leave me your comments, share your projects with me. I can't wait to see what you all create. And if you need one of those Happy Mail catalogs in the mail, be sure to fill out that catalog request form on my website at stampinqueenbee.com. Have a great week, everyone, and I will see you guys next week for another fun card class video.